Ayahuasca definitely shook me to my very core and made me go through my absolute worst fear. It was a living nightmare. This is my personal story of going to the deep jungle of Peru to drink one of the most potent psychedelics in the world, ayahuasca. The first time I did ayahuasca 2 years ago, my life got transformed forever, but this was just scratching the surface. This time I returned with my girlfriend to face my deepest fears and journey deep into the recesses of my own mind. This brought us into Iquitos, an isolated city in Peru. Now, this is the place you want to be in if you're looking for ayahuasca tourism, which is absolutely booming right now. Am I crazy? Not only for coming back to this experience, but for bringing my girlfriend along? Is ayahuasca really this powerful medicine that has legitimate healing properties like so many claim? Or is it just some crazy hippie drug that makes people go insane? Ayahuasca is an ancient plant medicine that has been used by indigenous people for over 4,000 years. Ayahuasca is also the most botanically and chemically complex hallucinogen. Traditionally, ayahuasca usually consists of 2 ingredients, the chacruna plant and the ayahuasca vine. These 2 plants don't do anything by themselves, but the shaman somehow figured out a way to combine these 2 ingredients to make the visionary brew we now know as ayahuasca. The chacruna plant has high amounts of N,N-dimethyltryptamine, or simply DMT, which is an endogenous chemical found throughout nature, including humans. The only reason we don't trip out every time we eat a salad is because we have a stomach enzyme called monoamine oxidase that breaks down DMT before it crosses the blood-brain barrier. The ayahuasca vine contains an MAO inhibitor, which makes DMT orally active. Ayahuasca activates regions in the brain like the amygdala, which stores early emotional memories, specifically traumatic and significant ones like the death of a parent. Ayahuasca helps override those neural connections and make new ones. This doesn't mean that ayahuasca makes you forget all these traumatic memories, but instead gives you a new perspective which makes room for healing. fMRI scans also show that ayahuasca decreases activity in the default mode network, which is usually high in activity for those suffering from depression and anxiety. This could be why ayahuasca has such an insanely high success rate with treating drug addiction, trauma, and treatment-resistant depression. Ayahuasca isn't all fun and games though. Some people have lost their minds and even died after drinking this jungle concoction. Even though this is very rare and usually only happens after mixing certain medications such as SSRI drugs, it still happens from time to time. So I invite you guys to be careful and do your own research, and please know what you're getting yourself into. This is not child's play. This is very serious, deep work that you must be willing to do. Otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. We went to a retreat called Dream Glade to stay for 2 weeks and have 6 ayahuasca ceremonies. Safe to say I was absolutely shitting myself going into this. Truly facing yourself is the most frightening thing you can ever do in life. This is why most people, including myself, distract themselves constantly with TV, food, Facebook, friends, drinking, traveling, reading, fill in the blank. Our mind is always on the lookout for stimulation and does whatever it can to avoid being with ourselves. Psychedelics like ayahuasca forces you to truly face yourself whether you like it or not. If there's somewhere you don't want to go in your own psyche, ayahuasca is going to go there, and without hesitation and remorse. Storm's coming. As we prepared for the first ceremony, we all focused on our intention and why we were doing this in the first place. Whilst the ancient brew was poured into my cup and I smoked a mapacho, I knew this wasn't going to be easy. first ceremony was a lot more intense than what I anticipated. At first it was so overwhelming. I'm talking about the visuals, very like, it was almost like I was in this 3D geometric labyrinth. So I was just constantly moving. But a lot of emotions came up, a lot of fear and other strong negative emotions. And physically it was actually really intense as well, and I just couldn't stop moving, and I was like starting to freak out a bit. And Stacey, facilitator, obviously heard me in distress, so he came over, guided me through it, you know, made me focus on my breathing. And once I kind of let go, then things started to flow a lot easier, because once you stop resisting and you fully embody all these negative emotions, that allows you to let it go, right? I was going through a lot of emotions, right? So negative and positive. So a lot of grief, sadness, and a lot of deep insecurities started to come up. Stuff that I've been holding on to since childhood. And there would be some times where I would go through this complete joyful, blissful experience, and it was beautiful. A lot what came up for me was looking at my personality traits and what makes me happy, and connecting with my higher self, going through my core values. And there was also a lot of stuff that I've been holding on to my family as well. Like deep-seated trauma, which I just scratched the surface on. You know, as the Icaros was going on, a lot of these negative emotions and trauma was just brewing up in me. And they were coming up to the surface, but my ego was resisting. It was like it was holding on to these traumas, right? Like it just didn't want to let go. All in all, it was a pretty powerful experience, a lot of universal downloads. I'm still processing a lot, but I felt like things were just rising to the surface, and this was just the beginning, so we'll see how we go. Alright, so night two. Definitely one that I'm never going to forget. This was by far the most intense, traumatic experience I've ever gone through in my entire life. And I'm talking like orders of magnitude. Ayahuasca definitely shook me to my very core and made me go through my absolute worst fear. It was a living nightmare. So second ceremony, I had a little bit more than half a cup, maybe a few more drops than the first ceremony. And man, the taste was particularly sinister on this one, because as soon as I sipped it, man, the first couple minutes was literally just me holding my stomach, concentrating my breathing, trying to hold this thing down. And about 5 minutes passed, it already started to kick in. I'm like full force. Visually is like I'm not even gonna bother describing the visuals, because it's just ineffable, and it was way too intense. This is probably the most intense experience I've gone through, actually all levels, visually, emotionally, spiritually, but particularly visually. I got to the point where I was blinded by the visuals, so it didn't matter whether I was opening or closing my eyes. It was just right there, you know. There was just no escaping. It's like ayahuasca, just like fucking, you're not getting away from this one, you know. It was about 5 minutes in, I could just feel the intensity getting higher and higher, and I was getting overwhelmed, not only visually but all my senses. It was like I had this sensory overload, and there was like this cross wiring going on, right? So I was getting these very bizarre sensations, right? So like these weird tactile sensations, you know, tasting sounds and hearing colors, and just really, really weird stuff. And I could feel my heartbeat and my breath just getting deep, and I was sort of starting to get like early signs of a panic attack. So, you know, I asked for help. Drew came over, guided me through my breathing, and for maybe a minute, not even 30 seconds, it helped, but it just kept increasing, man. It was like a line throughout the whole night. And I got to the point where I was slowly quickly descending into madness, and human constructs started to disappear into oblivion. You know, I started to really question, like, what the fuck is time? What a friend? What's relationship? What is life? And just really lost my mind. Like, seriously. This would just get more intense, more intense, more intense.
and I could just feel these deep-rooted, repressed emotions come up, like pain, anguish, terror, rage, hopelessness, fear. I went into this timeless dimension, almost like this void. It was weird because like the visuals were absolutely indescribable. It was very intense, but I wasn't seeing entities or anything like that. I was in this void almost where I felt hopelessness but alone. You know, that was the scary part, was that I was alone in this. And I 100% convinced myself that I was going to be stuck in this dimension for the rest of my life. And I convinced myself that I broke my head, you know, that I was going to be in this psychotic episode forever. This was so overwhelming, and I lost pretty much all control, you know, and it's hard losing control like that. It's scary. And I was like yelling for help, you know. I just wanted this to end. I just wanted this pain and suffering to end. I was purging a lot, like crying and throwing up, and they took me outside, and I remember throwing up over the rail, and this was, man, this was some deep-rooted, dark, almost demonic shit that I was throwing up. Stuff that I was been holding on to my whole life. And like I said, how I was blinded with visuals and I just got to get more intense. I was really struggling to walk, you know, they pretty much carried me out there. And I was just stumbling along, just screaming for help, and I went to that conclusion that I had to kill myself. Like the only way out of this loop was to end my life. And the saddest part about this was that I had to, like, just the thought of leaving my family, my friends, especially Yesenia, behind, because I could see their pain and anguish of me having to leave, and I lived through their pain, and that made me so sad that at that time I thought there was no other option. And I remember calling out for Yesenia and, you know, holding her and just saying, like, I'm so sorry. I know that you don't want me to die. I know you don't want me to die, but you know I have to do this, yeah? Like, there's no other option. And, you know, and I was just in this constant loop saying things like, I broke my head, oh no, put a gun to my head, oh fuck, I've really done it this time. Like, I know I'm laughing about it now, but this happened like 3 nights ago, you know, so I have a bit of a sense of humor, but it's pretty fucking traumatic at the time. So, like, eventually these guys pushed me to the shower, you know, put the cold shower behind me, but I was like getting a bit aggressive, and I just like banging my fist and like hitting my head. As you can see, I did a bit of collateral damage that night. I remember like resisting a lot and like pushing back, and like I think I ran to the car and they pinned me down to the ground. I had like 3 people on me, one each arm, one of them sitting on my legs, and that's when the shaman came, started singing and started to energetically suck the ayahuasca out to try to get me down to baseline. And then I remember Yesenia shoving a lime and salt in my mouth. Even though it didn't help immediately, I think maybe half an hour after that, I very quickly, boom, went back to this reality. And yeah, so the rest of the night I was just kind of sitting there shocked, traumatized, and just processing what the fuck just happened. And yeah, I was not gonna lie, I was pretty fucking terrified about what happened, you know. And I feel really bad for the whole group, because I disrupted the ceremony. Because I was just like yelling on the top of my lungs, like for real, you know. And I just felt really bad for the pain that Yesenia went through. It was just like, yeah, it was really sad. But, you know, I completely lost control, you know, what can I say? One of my main intentions was to get over these repressed emotions that have been holding me back, you know, because it's very frustrating doing work on yourself and getting over these like depressive episodes and whatnot, and then they just like sneak back up on you, because there's just something like this root cause that I haven't faced. But I'm feeling a lot more confident to step in again. So yeah, see how the 3rd ceremony goes.
Night 2 was a very traumatic night for me, which made me step back and reevaluate my life and my relationship with psychedelics. I never thought that this would happen to me. I was conflicted. Getting thrown into the abyss and living my worst nightmare was not fun. Even though what happened to me is extremely rare, this reminded me of the potential dangers these substances may have, which many ignore, including myself. I can't believe I continued with this retreat. I think most people would have packed their bags the next day given what happened. But something inside me told me that I can't stop now. I would have left the retreat worse off if that was my last experience. The only choice I had was to trust the medicine, as challenging as it was to do. The facilitators had a chat with me about what happened and if it was wise to continue. This could have happened to anybody. The shaman saw that I may have mixed some other drugs or something which may have caused an adverse reaction, but this was not the case. I took this very seriously and prepared my mind and body as much as I possibly could. We came to the conclusion that this was some deep repressed emotions that my ego was holding on to, and due to my resistance and unwillingness to surrender, ayahuasca gave me a heavy beating. As Drew stated, I wasn't fighting with the medicine, I was fighting with myself. Let's just say I'm extremely grateful to have been in a retreat full of people who care and look after you. I couldn't imagine being in that situation without anyone there to help me. It's too scary to think about. This is why it's always wise to have a guide or a trip sitter when working with these substances. You just never know. You can't have any expectations on how any ceremony is going to go. Every single ayahuasca ceremony is completely unique from one another. In other words, you never have the same trip twice. This is because ayahuasca, just like any psychedelic, is not a drug in the usual sense of the word. There is no specific reaction, no expected result, somatic or psychological. The specific experience you get has very little to do with the substance itself. This is a result of set and setting, preparation and environment. The shaman and facilitators recommended me skipping the next ceremony, which I did, as the shaman did a limpieza on me to prep me up for the next one. Safe to say I was a tad nervous jumping back in. Jumping back in was very scary, but I knew I had to do it. I've gone this far, right? Next ceremony I only had about a quarter of a cup, which did nothing. I sat there throughout the whole night completely sober. I was really frustrated at the medicine. It's like, first you take me to the brink of suicide, then you give me nothing? What is this, a sick joke? I risked everything to come here. So much money, time and effort came into this. I even quit my job to come here. It's like, fuck! I was losing hope. I got to the point where I didn't even care anymore. Maybe this medicine wasn't for me. Maybe I ran out of luck when it came to plant medicine. Maybe this shit can drive you insane. I didn't know anymore.
So this ceremony it was absolutely amazing. Like, this is what I came for. You know what I mean? I got all the answers and closure that I needed. Like, even if I was to leave this retreat right now, I would be happy with what I got. There was a reason why ayahuasca shook me to my absolute core. And it was a combination of facing my deepest rooted fear, which is losing my mind and going into that realm of complete aloneness and hopelessness, you know? And it was just something that I had to go through because, number one, I needed to learn my lesson as well in taking too much, because that first ceremony I had half a cup and that was enough for me. In that second ceremony, I'm like, oh, you know what, I'll have a little bit more. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I had to push it just a little bit more because I wanted to go a bit deeper when it's completely unnecessary. So it was a bit of a combination of, you know, the medicine demanding respect and also for learning my lesson of always pushing it too far, you know what I mean? Like, just take it easy. And also to face my deepest, darkest fear imaginable. And sometimes we have to completely lose our mind and break down so we can build ourselves up again. Everything in my life that's been happening in these last couple months, you know, as well as that second ceremony, completely makes sense. It was just a huge learning experience that I had to go through. So I did shed off a lot of my old self, a lot of these deep fears, anxieties, insecurities, and it's just funny now because I had that aha moment, like, oh, of course, you know, and I remember literally laughing out loud how scared I was in so many aspects of life. I'll just end it at, it was incredibly insightful, felt a lot of bliss, love, unity, connectedness, light, and all of these things that I've been wanting to feel. And it's funny because this ceremony, I let all expectations go. I wasn't frustrated. I was patient with the medicine, and like, if it doesn't happen, because I was in that state of like, oh, you know, fuck it, who cares anymore. And at least for me, this year is going to be like a huge year. Yeah, it's just all makes sense to me now. So I'm in an awesome place, and Like I said, if I was to leave this retreat right now, I'd be happy with it. So I feel absolutely amazing, just really clean, light. I feel more vibrant, rejuvenated, and most importantly, I feel rebalanced. One of the big mistakes that I was doing before in these last couple of months when I was going through a really rough period was that it was like I was looking to find joy somewhere. And I know that you can't find joy on the external, but it's like it was still something that I was trying to find when it's something that we already have. A lot of these ayahuasca ceremonies is like shedding off all these bullshit cultural programming and just getting back to my core, you know, getting back to that bliss state, getting back to my core mission and reconnecting with my higher self. Ayahuasca gave me a very strong lesson to not analyze everything, you know what I mean, and accept things for what they are without judgment. Because when we judge things and moralize them as good or bad, then the mind has something to attach to, right? And that can create unnecessary suffering. Sometimes we may go through a lot of turbulence in life and, you know, things can get really chaotic and dark and just crazy, and you might have these depressive episodes and then you judge it as bad, and like then you judge yourself for thinking like, oh fuck, you know, I should be past this. Why do I feel these things? And sometimes, like my case, I was getting a lot of confusion when I was looking for clarity. But even though we can go through these really negative cycles full of chaos and distress, the best thing to do is just to ride the wave, not judge it, because eventually it's all gonna make sense. And that's what happened to me. Everything in my life, what's happened to this point, makes perfect sense. And I can't help but like just laugh and smile about it. It's like, yeah, of course, you know. You don't have to always understand what's going on and analyze everything, because like you're just gonna stress yourself out. But let me just say that overall the experience was absolutely incredible. It was exactly what I needed, like every single ceremony, even that really fucking challenging one. At the end of the day, I guess the universe really does have my back, and even though I was losing hope. And just like Terence McKenna used to say, nature loves courage. I got rewarded for jumping into the deep end. It's crazy to think that this is seriously just the beginning of my journey. Talk about one epic hero's journey. I went through the whole gamut of human emotion, from absolute terror to pure bliss. Going into the cesspool of the human psyche wasn't easy, but was necessary for the evolution of my consciousness, as this has been something that I've been avoiding my whole life. We must learn to fall in love with the shadow instead of disowning it. It's a big part of us, whether we like it or not. All I can say is that I was just glad to go back to my normal life and have my sanity back. Joseph Campbell once said, "The psychotic drowns in the same waters in which the mystic swims with delight." And this is a very fine line, and it brings us back to the age-old question of, are these experiences psychotic or spiritual? I guess it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. Sometimes it's okay to lose your mind every once in a while. You get it back. I got the message loud and clear that I don't need ayahuasca to heal. I already have all the tools and answers within me. Looking on hindsight, these experiences have helped me grow in unimaginable ways, which I will forever be grateful for. But I don't need to keep coming back. Like, I don't always have to rip my ego to shreds. Ayahuasca continues to help countless people deal with their issues, traumas, mental illnesses, and physical diseases every single day. There's a reason why ayahuasca is so popular, even in the scientific community. But as powerful as these medicines are, they can also be equally as dangerous if they're not used in the right context. Duality, right? I think too many people, like myself, fool themselves into thinking that they need to keep coming back for this experience to heal and to grow. But the reality is that you must be willing to do the work in your everyday life, because let me tell you from experience, that's when the real ceremony begins. Thanks to you guys who've been watching this vibe. Really hope you enjoyed it. I put a lot of time and effort into this. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for future content. And thanks to all the beautiful people who are supporting me on Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible. If you guys want to support this channel and this mission, then I invite you guys to check out Patreon. We are aiming to reach our first milestone soon, so that way I would be able to make consistent content.
I'd love to be able to make like the bigger project content, like, you know, an LSD trip simulation, more live experiences, documentaries, and I'd love to make an ayahuasca documentary similar to this style, but from my girlfriend's perspective, because she had a very powerful story, but I just didn't want to mix two stories in one video because it just would have been way too chaotic. And I know that many of you guys want me to make things like mushroom picking guide and all these kind of things, but it takes a lot of time and effort to pull all this stuff off. And for those supporting me on Patreon, you'll have access to an uncut version of this ayahuasca documentary, because I cut a lot out, so you'll be able to get more on the story. And I'm also going to start doing monthly live streams on Patreon, as well as post exclusive content. I've recently launched a merch store as well, so if you guys want to find another way of supporting this channel, you can always buy a t-shirt. This is one of them. 10% of all profit does get donated to MAPS. Might as well support psychedelic research. But yeah guys, I'm feeling like on top of the world right now. As some of you may know, I had a really tough Iboga experience which triggered like this existential crisis, but I've recently went full circle with that just yesterday actually, which I'm very, very excited to share with you guys because I finally grounded that wisdom into this reality. So hopefully I can serve more people. And I've got big plans outside of this channel. So yeah, watch this space. But that's it guys. Have a beautiful day and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace!